My hoagie roll recipe is better than Subway and it's super easy for you guys to do. And it's only 6 ingredients to get this nice fluffy hoagie roll that you see here. This hoagie roll is soft, but yet it's strong enough to hold all of your cheesy goodness like Philly cheesesteaks or whatever you want to put in here. It has a nice buttery flavor and it's better than anything you can buy. So the first thing we're going to do is bloom my yeast. I got some water going in. Now I'm measuring by using a scale, but you guys can go by cups. I will put the cup measurements in the description below. But yeah, I'm going to warm up this water in the microwave. I put it on about a minute. You don't want your water to be too hot because it can kill your yeast. But after I take it out the microwave, I'm going to add in some sugar. The sugar is going to give us a subtle sweetness and it's also going to help bloom our yeast. I have 1 packet of rapid rise yeast that I bought from the store, and all I'm going to do is add it into our water. Now, usually I do not do this when it comes to making bread. I have never had dead yeast before, but I know for you beginners, I know that you guys want to make sure that your yeast is alive before you start mixing, and so that's what I'm doing. Instead of using bread flour in this recipe, I'm going to use 00 Italian flour. I'm using this flour for 2 reasons. Number one, that it creates a soft sandwich-like crumb, but it also maintains a slight chewiness, which you need when it comes to a hoagie roll. But it also has a strong protein content and gluten level, which is going to help us make it hold together, and the bread is going to come out perfect with this flour. I'm going to add some salt on top of that flour, just a little bit of salt. You don't want this to be too salty, but you do want it to have a little bit of flavor. After a while, you can see my yeast has bloomed. It maybe took around 5 minutes. It was already warm in my house. I'm going to add some butter flavor shortening in there. Butter flavor shortening gives it a nice rich flavor and it also helps soften the dough. And I really like this when it comes to this hoagie roll because you can tell the difference. I use butter flavor shortening in my Krispy Kreme donut recipe, and it was a lot softer and it got closer to the texture of the Krispy Kreme donuts than the previous variations that I made with the dough. Speaking of my Krispy Kreme donut recipe, a lot of you guys have been asking for it. It's in my bread making 101 course. It'll be in the description below. It's a video course that goes through all the basics of bread making, giving you one dough that you can make 3 breads with, a homemade pizza, and my famous Krispy Kreme donut recipe. It includes all the recipes and step-by-step instructions. Now that we got that shameless plug out the way, let's get back to the dough. So you can see it's mixing on medium-low speed. And once it gets together or combines together, I'm going to take it up to medium-high speed. And it's going to catch on the dough hook and it's going to begin developing gluten. This process is going to take 5 to 7 minutes because we do have richness in there with the shortening. So it is going to take a little bit of while for it to come together. But once it comes together, it's going to start slapping around the bowl. And when I take it and tug at it, it's not ripping apart, which tells me the gluten is developed. And now I can take this off the dough hook and we can begin to proof this. This dough shouldn't be sticky at all. So if it's sticky, you want to continue to mix. So now I'm just going to take it off the dough hook and it slide right off. And as you guys can see, the dough hook is pretty clean. That shortening really does help kind of grease stuff up. It's not going to make the bread greasy, but it's going to help you not to stick to you. So I'm just kneading it ever so slightly into a ball. And, we're just trying to kind of get those corners tucked in together so it can begin to proof. I'm flattening out the dough a little bit so it can make it easier for me to, strength build fold, which you guys will see after it proofs for 45 minutes. So I'm just covering it up, letting it proof for 45 minutes. And once it doubles in size, I'm going to come and I'm going to perform a strength building fold. Now, this is super easy for you guys to do. The only thing you want to make sure you have is a wet hand. So I'm using my spray bottle that I use for all my doughs and spraying my hand. And I'm going to pull out a part of the dough and I'm going to fold it over itself. You want to do that with each corner. And what this is doing is helping build the strength in the dough, which is going to help with shaping it into a hoagie roll. But once you have all of those 4 corners, you just want to kind of fold it over itself and then knead it back into a ball position. And like I said, this is building strength. We're only going to do this one time and then we're going to cover it back up. And once we cover it back up, we're going to let this go for an additional 30 minutes. Now, this is all going to depend on the temperature in your home. Luckily for me, it's pretty cold outside, so it is quite warm up in here. But once we let that proof for an additional 30 minutes, we're going to take it and cut it into pieces, and I'm going to weigh them out. I did 175 grams for each hoagie roll, and I did 3 big hoagie rolls, and I did 1 small hoagie roll. So you can see me kind of measuring and then just kind of taking some off. And, kind of making sure that I have the right amount for each hoagie roll. If you're going to do any type of bread making, I suggest you guys get a dough card. Now, this is just a plastic dough card. They do have metal ones. You can get this from Walmart or any other place, but it really helps when it comes to cutting the dough and, when it helps with measurements like this. If you don't have a dough card, you can use a knife, but it probably won't work as well because, the knives are very sharp and sometimes the dough can get a little sticky. So once I divide them up, I'm just going to take my hand and I'm going to pinch the seams at the bottom of it. and turn it into a dough ball. This is going to help us shape the dough in a second. And I had to re-measure the last dough so I can figure out how I was going to shape that one. But I basically just, kind of pinch the seams in together and, kind of make sure that it was kind of tight. So I have 3 dough balls that are 175 grams and 1 dough ball that is 111 grams for a small hoagie roll that I'm going to make for somebody else. I'm going to let the dough rest for 15 minutes covered, and then I'm going to start shaping the dough. Now, this is going to be a simple method, but you might have to watch this a couple of times. First thing I'm going to do is flatten the dough. Get out all of those air bubbles that it had during proofing. You might have to stretch it a little bit, and so I'm just stretching to make sure all of those air bubbles are out. Now, if you have a rolling pin, this might be a lot easier than what I'm doing right here. I'm just so used to shaping dough by hand. And that's basically what I'm doing right here. I'm going to give my dough a couple of sprays to help with stickage when I'm rolling it up. This is going to help the dough stick to itself when you're rolling it up. So now I'm just taking it and I'm rolling it up as tightly as I can. I know you guys can't see all of what I'm doing because of the camera angle, but I'm just rolling as tightly as I can. And because I sprayed it, it's sticking pretty good. And I'm just taking my hand and I'm pinching in the seams, and then I'm rolling the dough over itself on those seams. My hands are in a triangle state, and I'm just kind of rolling it on those edges, and then keep rolling it out until I can get, an even cylinder. You also want to roll on the edges too. You want to apply a little bit of pressure if it's fat in the middle, because you don't want that. You want it to be even all over. I'm pinching in the seams on the side, so when I put it in the oven, it doesn't explode and expose some of the inside of the bread. I've had that happen to me a couple of times. Basically, you're making sure everything is sealed. So here's me doing it again. And like I said, I'm rolling as tightly as I can. I'm trying to give you guys the best look, and I'm going to pinch those seams in again, and I'm going to roll it on itself. So, you kind of see me going with this and kind of rolling it on both seams. You see my hands right there. I'm applying even pressure, trying to roll it out and making sure everything is sealed. Once you do this a couple of times, you'll find that it's super easy to do the next time. Trust me. And make sure you poked in those sealed sides so that it can look like a hoagie roll and not a baguette. So I'm getting my dark colored sheet tray, and if you're using a dark colored sheet tray, you just know that your cooking time will be, lessened. Colored sheet trays transfer more heat, so just keep that in mind. If you have a gray sheet tray, then you're good to go. But I'll tell you the baking times for each one in just a second. But I spray some water down on the sheet tray and then put some parchment paper down. Then I'm going in with some cornmeal. I love toasty cornmeal on my hoagie rolls, so add a liberal amount. And all I'm doing is taking my dough and I'm placing them on there. I kind of spread them a little bit farther from each other because I didn't know how much it was going to puff up or spread to the side. So, I'm kind of flattening out, which is why I made sure I had a lot of space in between. But we're going to cover this and we're going to proof this for about 30 minutes. Like I said, it's really going to depend on the temperature of your house. My house was pretty warm, so they got done really fast. Now we're going to do an egg wash. I got 1 egg going in. I'm going to add like a splash of water and a little bit of salt to break down the protein of the egg so it can kind of spread over the dough a little bit evenly. I think that's a little bit more than a pinch. But anyway, you're gonna get your fork and you're gonna kind of whisk it together. And at this point, if you want to add different toppings to your hoagie roll, you can definitely do that. I'm going to do an Italian herb and cheese one, like the one from Subway, and I'm also going to do one with sesame seed. But whatever ingredients you want to add to your bread, you can. This is me showing you the Italian seasoning that I'm using and the sesame seeds that I'm using. Your basic normal store brand from the store. So now I'm about to check the proof on my bread. If you poke it and it slowly goes back to the top, then it's proofed correctly. If it goes too fast, then you overproof this. So you want to kind of keep an eye on it and make sure you're shaking in between time. Now, for some reason, I could not find my dough raiser anywhere, so I had to use a knife. This was super, super inconvenient. But no, if you're going to do it like this, you do want to use a serrating knife. I just could not find my serrating knife anywhere as well. So I'm using the sharp part of my knife and I'm trying to make a cut in the middle. You want to give it a place for your dough to, rise it. If you don't do this, your bread might come out less soft. So you definitely want to do this, and it makes a difference, trust me. So I'm trying my best to make the cuts. Like I said, this is super inconvenient. I'm sorry that my hand is covering it up. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to take some egg wash and I'm going to spread it over my hoagie rolls. I'm going to do each and every one of them, and I'm trying to apply a lot of it because I do have a lot of sesame seeds and I do want them to stick. So you can kind of see me just applying as much as needed. Try not to get some on the actual parchment paper because you don't want that to kind of burn. Or sometimes if you put too much egg wash, it can stick. So just be, kind of careful with that. But I'm just using my silicone brush and I'm making sure every single hoagie roll is covered and that, everything that I put on it is going to stick. I also forgot to mention that you can do 2 large foot longs with this dough recipe, or you can do 3 medium like I got here, or you can do 4 small hoagie rolls. It's really up to you, and what you want to do is really based on your sandwich needs, if you need big ones or small ones. But I'm taking my sesame seeds and I'm kind of drizzling it over the egg wash hoagie roll. I'm trying not to get none on the pan, but if some's getting on the pan, it's not the end of the world. I'm applying extra because I know some of them are going to fall off. So just keep that in mind as well. For my Italian herb and cheese one, I'm just going in with some Italian herbs and I'm using the sprinkle effect to kind of sprinkle it on the dough. You don't want to go overboard with this, but I'm just trying to make sure I get a good even spread. Now I'm going to add your basic cheddar cheese that's, from Walmart or Kroger or whatever. Nothing special. I didn't shred my own cheese for this particular recipe because it's just going to melt and it doesn't make it taste any different in my opinion. And once I add the cheese, I'm going in with some more Italian herb seasonings just to kind of make it look good. And we're going to bake this on 375 for 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the color of your pan. But once they brown up nicely like this, you can take them out. And I'm going to add a little bit of melted butter to kind of soften the crust. Now, they will soften as they cool, but if you want to make it a little bit extra soft like I do, add some melted butter. So I'm just trying to make sure I don't get any of the sesame seeds or the herbs or stuff, kind of off the hoagie roll because I'm using a silicone brush to kind of drizzle the butter on there. So you want to be careful about that. A lot of the sesame seeds that I put on the hoagie roll, did not come off when I used the silicone brush. And I'm trying my best to kind of drizzle it on there. But yeah, you're going to let this cool for at least 30 minutes, in my opinion. You want your bread to soften a lot. So just be patient with it, but eventually it's going to soften. And I'm going to give you some close up, of the hoagie rolls. The cheese one came out pretty good. You can kind of see the sesame seed hoagie roll, the other sesame seed hoagie roll. They all look pretty good. They would have looked better with my razor, but it's okay. These still came out really, really good. And as you can see, it has a fluffy inside, like I told you guys at the beginning of the video. Very sandwich friendly, but it's going to be chewy enough to hold anything. So if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like and check out my description.